Hello, hello, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be covering a part I forgot about, which is the occultist and Higgs in his mask and the robot octopus with the Magellan Men. And last week I had said I thought this was the last of the Higgs clips, but I absolutely forgot about this one. Um, so let's break it down. Let's see what we can find in these clips, and if anything new comes to light that we haven't figured out yet. I think these two photos really show us a really nice angle from both of these characters. We're evidently supposed to think that Higgs is looking down on us, and from a narrative standpoint, that's probably true. He's looking at us like a child. He knows everything, we know nothing. He's the powerful one, we're weak. This is probably early in the game, just like it was when we met Higgs in Death Stranding 1. And this is probably him attempting to rile Sam up in some way. I'm not completely confident that Sam's cast card is actually in this specific area, only because of the pod, because he does have a pod on in this group shot, but in his cast card he does not, and the only other time there is no pod on Sam is whenever he walks into that strange kind of tar mountain that we talked about in the previous video. So, not really clear on exactly what's going on with that cast card, because it's very clearly implied through the way that Hideo cut this that those kind of go together. Well, I say that. I don't know that they were necessarily near each other in the trailer, but these look like they go together. But I think it could go anywhere. Who knows? I just wanted to point that out. I'm excited to break down these guys because they look so cool. I'm so excited to be a part of this. It looks similar to the areas that we've been to already. Areas like the chiral contamination area that has like the really large tar mountain thing coming up where we talked about radio frequencies. It also looks like the area with the floating rocks and the place that just kind of, it was like dripping upwards, but you still had a lot of landscape around, versus here it looks very urban, and I think it's going to be a cityscape and not on the beach or anything, even though we have seen them there quite often. I think the biggest flaw in my thoughts right now about this being a regular just suburban area that Higgs is kind of taking over or is just at are the giant statues of Amelie behind him. Also, if I sound like I'm going to yawn, I do not know what it is. This weather has got me. It's rainy, it's dark. I got plenty of sleep and I'm still yawning constantly. So, if I sound sleepy, so sorry. But there's so much going on in this photo that I just kind of want to start with just the pieces and work from there. So, to begin with, we have these occultists, and we actually can see several of them in one place, much more than we've seen probably in any clip other than the pilgrimage that they do by the plague gate, and they're just kind of walking. And what I noticed is that, oh, actually, I think I just realized what I was looking at. I thought that the one near the edge had a huge backpack on, but I actually think that's just another person standing behind him. And it's really confusing when you look at it, but I don't think it's different than the other ones. I think you just can't see the black circle on the very far left figure. Now, something that I did notice was their hands. Usually with robots, everybody's going to do the same thing. You're programmed. I just realized that some of these people have dominant hands. I went through and counted. There are 15 occultists. 2 might be holding, oh, let me say it this way. 4 might have staffs, but if they do, you can't see them. And of those 4, the 2 of them are left-handed. Gosh, that was hard to say. 2 of them are not using their right hand if they are holding the staff, and 2 of them may be using their hands. So we either have 13 right-handed people and 2 lefties, or we have 11 right-handed people and 4 lefties. But that is interesting because that tells us these robots could have personality. The fact that they are not all using the exact same like posing says they have quirks, that they have programming that can allow them to do different things. I really like that for the first time in what feels like the whole game that we really see an ocean. I mean, that's fake because it's not the ocean, but this is the first time we're seeing water rise up other than on the beach. That looks like water. And I don't think we're on the beach here. It looks like there's a distro in the background. And the water isn't black, I don't think. It's really, really shimmery and reflective. And I feel like the tar lakes look differently. Now, we do get a tar lake here in a minute in the same area, and we're able to see this like large squid monster that Higgs brings forth. We assume it's Higgs. I don't know. I have thoughts on that too. But I did think it was interesting that there was this water, because then it made me think, is it water or is it that weird goopy mirror stuff that we've already seen these occultists be able to walk through? The other thing is I took a better look at the lettering on the back of this air pack, jet pack, whatever you want to call it, and I noticed that it actually is an H. There's a open square, like the line of a square, on the bottom right that just isn't filled in, that isn't white. It's just got an outline. So I think if we want to call this like Higgs's logo, I think we can. Part of me really, really is wanting to put off the trailer videos to solely work on decoding the text, because I feel like we could do it. It just seems like we're almost there. I truly think we could solve it. I want to call that these are chirograms, and we're going to find out these aren't real. They look exactly the same as every other Amelie effigy that we've seen, down to like the rust almost. Like that part on the left side, I feel like that's on every single one of them. And I also want to talk about how I actually don't think this is an Amelie effigy. I think this is Tomorrow. And I know a lot of people think that this is also like maybe just Higgs being like reviled or avowed, whatever the word is, like revered. He's being revered by all these people. But something about it, like initially I thought this was Amelie, but I'm looking at like the chest piece and the fact that it has like that long kind of silhouette that runs into the hair or is a continuation of the hair. And, Tomorrow is the one that has long hair. Amelie didn't have long hair. She had fairly short shoulder length hair. And then there's the baby with like it on the chest. And I mean, yeah, we did see that with Amelie. We saw that imagery. But something is just telling me that we're going to find out that Tomorrow has some sort of deep connection to Amelie. Or I think we could find out that the reason that Tomorrow exists has something to do with Amelie. Bridget had to have family before all of this happened. And personally, I don't think that Bridget was aware of her like affiliation with the beach or whatever you want to call it. I really don't, because she was working towards a better America, and they said she had like a prominent family history of trying to make America better and rebuild, and that her focus was in like foundations and structures. I had to go and find that one day and do like a video on it, but that was like a really interesting background to her character. And in the book, they kind of touch on it, and it just basically says that, she kind of had this like connection to the founding fathers of the United States, and that her family had always been really deeply involved. So, like, prior to this, Bridget had family. She would have had a dad, a mom, siblings, maybe. But she would have had people, she would have had connections. And when she's on her deathbed, as far as we're aware from interviews, she has no one. She is a self made woman. She has no husband. She has no boyfriend. She has no family or connections that we're aware of or that Die Hardman is aware of. And what's interesting is when they show the hospital scene with Amelie and her becoming separate and the Ka being split from the Ha, we see that Amelie appears on the beach in that really kind of, I don't know, famous outfit she's always in. The one that she's known for, it's like the long red dress, but it's in blue, I think. I feel like I'm also speaking aggressively at you. I'm so sorry. Let me take a breather. um, but I made this connection and it kind of made me really curious. So Die Hardman says that he was talking to Bridget and Bridget was in her dress and that her Y-shaped necklace glowed. And the thing is, we know the Kipu didn't exist, or as far as we know, it didn't exist before Sam created it. So I thought, what if it was like a dream catcher? Like what Amelie gave Sam? Could she have had something similar to that she was wearing? That And that's what Die Hardman saw. And so that would track that when she woke up on the beach, if she had something very important to her, she could have brought it with her. So it's possible that the Dreamcatcher is actually kind of like Amelie's original necklace that she's known for wearing when she was still Bridget, which I feel like I need like a name for her, Bramley. So that brings me back to kind of these connections. So the fact that Bridget never had children, and therefore she probably isn't the person this effigy is about, obviously. But we also know that Bridget and Amelie were like twins because they were literally the same person. And that really freaked people out because, Bridget was aging and Amelie wasn't. And it makes me wonder, could there be something like Tomorrow being related to Bridget somehow? And, because I almost feel like we know that Bridget's inability to have a child was something that really haunted her and upset her. And, it kind of put all this into motion because Amelie wanted to save Sam and to have a family and have connection. So if we theorize that perhaps Tomorrow was created from possibly saved eggs or was an actual clone, and I assume, I don't know a lot about cloning and genetics. I know like they can clone your dog technically and it just looks like it, but this is a supernatural game, so it could probably be whatever we want. But in like the sci-fi-ness of this game, I'm thinking she had that weird belly button. She had the umbilical cord that was still attached. Amelie existed in a different realm. And I'm just thinking, what if the baby that Lucy and Neil are showing the photos of, the scans of, if it's not Lucy's baby and the Tomorrow and Lou theory doesn't happen, I think it could be really neat if Tomorrow ends up being a copy or clone or related to Bridget and Amelie. And the reason I even think that this is a possibility is because in the book, Amelie is said to have green eyes. Now, we have to take the book with a pinch of salt because it says things that don't always end up being canon, but at that point they knew they wanted her to have green eyes, and her eyes are kind of green. I don't know. Everybody's eyes are weird in this video game. Like, they should have just given them like Play-Doh color eyes so that we could know specifically what color they are, because everyone really has like hazel, blue, green, gray eyes, and so in different lighting they look different ways. But if Amelie's eyes were green, we know Lou's eyes are green, and we know that Tomorrow's eyes are green. And maybe there's a connection there. I love the idea that Tomorrow and Lou could be the same person, but I would also love for Amelie to get a second chance. And maybe this is just her being reborn. And I forgot what I was even talking about, but basically all I was going to say was that I look at this effigy and I think, what if it's not Amelie holding Sam, Higgs holding Lou? What if it's Tomorrow holding Lou? And it's kind of like full circle. Tomorrow's the land of the dead. Lou has technically been alive and also never really got the chance to be born. She's been like this BB for so long, and I just wonder if Tomorrow's on the beach, then that implies that Tomorrow has lived and died, meaning she could be a family member to someone in the game. Possibly a family member to Bridget, maybe someone, we don't ever learn, I don't think, if maybe she did have a daughter and she died, I don't think she did, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's like, oh, here's an email saying that Bridget actually had a daughter at some point. But my thoughts are, what if that is Tamara holding Lou, and this is like some iconic imagery that's made its way out there, like in the mythos? Or what if Amelie is more well known than we realize? Because if she was the beach and she was a type of god on the beach, then wouldn't it follow that maybe she would visit these people on their beaches and maybe they would know of her? Especially if, like, maybe the idea of Sam and him being repatriated, maybe that triggered something on the beach, and maybe now these people know this story, this mythos, so maybe people on the beach hear things as well. It would be funny to find out, like, oh yeah, when you die, like, you just go live in like purgatory over there, which a lot of people believe, like, yeah, you just go live over there or you go live again. And so that would be a really fun concept for Hideo to play with. And then it's just like, we're acting like Tomorrow's strange because she was in the land of the dead and there were no babies being born, but she thinks maybe perhaps that we're strange because what do you mean you're out here killing babies? Moving on from depressing topics to supernatural topics, the numbers on their backpacks, going back to that. So we know that this is technically a capital H. It's just got one of the blocks outlined, and so it looks more like a 4, a backwards 4. But that actually makes so much sense because, of course, it would be backwards. If they are from the beach, everything's in reverse. We've already seen on Red Samurai that part of the text on his outfit is literally in reverse. And I don't think that's a printing error. I think that is evidence that there is a mirror world, mirror items. When they come over here, things don't look quite right. And if we use that logic, what we should really be doing in all of these videos is flipping the canvas, flipping the film horizontal to look at these coded fonts. Now, moving on from that, well, not really moving on, but moving back to the number 4, we know that in Japan, that 4 is considered like an unlucky number because when you say 4 out loud, you say she, or she. Close enough, I think. And then whenever you say death, it's also she. And the way it's spelled is SHI, which kind of looks like shh. So I wonder if all of that freaking shushing stuff from the Death Stranding 1 was literally just a nod to, not only Speak No Evil, which we saw with like BB, but to death. Because Cliff, you're talking of death in these things. I don't know. I just thought that was really fun and like neat to link together. The next thing that we have number wise is that there is a superstition in Japan that I had never heard of before, and it is you don't have a room 43 in child units. So that whenever mothers are giving birth, you wouldn't want a room 43 because when you say it, the sounds that you have to make for 43, they're homophones, and that same word also means something else, and it means stillbirth. So 43 in Japanese can mean 43, or it can mean stillbirth, which is a number that I now want to go back and look for because we know still mothers, and I obviously don't speak Japanese, so I'm doing all this based on wiki and translate. But if you know of anyone that speaks Japanese, it would be really interesting to know, like, are there any correlations like that for something like a still mother? So like, I don't know what mom is. I looked it up. There doesn't seem to be anything similar to still mothers. So, I don't know. But if you know differently, you should tell me. In the background, we can actually make out Higgs's coffin is on the ground, which I thought was kind of a fun touch that we are at like this distro appearing area. Although there's a lot of odd stuff in front of the opening, it's possible that maybe this is where Higgs is camping out, or maybe this is just kind of like a port or city that we've made it to. It's more clear in this photo that this is like a port or shipping yard. Not just because of the water that I think could maybe even just like not be there part of the time. But like over to the left, we have like these weirdly shaped like rungs almost, and then we have an area that kind of looks like a boat could pull up to it, and then that centerpiece, like I thought that was like the entrance to a distro, and it does kind of look like that, but it also looks like some sort of weird like what is coming out of that? It's like a really long bridge, but where is it going? And then we have some weird things sticking up out of the ground, but I don't really know what those are. And I'm constantly trying to figure out like what are we looking at? And I'm almost like, is that a ship? It has a place where you can come out and like stand on the railing, but maybe again, maybe it's just a place where you can board. I'm thinking maybe this is those weird things that you ride with like the stick and you see Sam like it's like the new sort of zip line. Maybe that's what this is. Like you would end up here and like go through it almost like you're on a train. Because we do see a lot of those weird trains zipping around. We are able to see that the coffin almost immediately disappears behind Higgs, which gives credence to the theory that he is able to move across the beach somehow. Maybe he has to be brought, I'm not sure. But the coffin has disappeared. He looks super goofy in that really big poncho just because it makes him look so odd in body shape. Like he doesn't even look like himself. The only thing I want to note here is I thought it was kind of interesting that he's not looking up. He's looking down at the ground. You can't really see his hair, but maybe you can see just a touch of it. And it's almost like Sam doesn't really know him yet, which is unfortunate because I did put it later in the timeline, but it just doesn't seem to match anywhere else. The problem is that Sam doesn't seem to recognize Higgs in the Red Samurai fight until Higgs is like, hey, did you miss me? It seems to be the first time they've interacted. So this would have to come later because we do get that image of Higgs kind of laughing and like you get to see his mask, and I guess I just don't understand how we get from one scene to another. you would think that Sam would immediately clock that that was Higgs. He recognized his voice and stuff, even when he was faking it as like the Bridges man, and gave him the bomb. So I am confused on where this goes. But we do see a pod on Sam. His Oja deck is working, and we're just gonna go ahead and move on. For me personally, it's hard not to like this character. I just think he's such a brat, and I love that for him. He's just a spoiled turd. The way he's smiling, and I know he's gonna do this right before he beats me into a bloody pulp in a boss battle. I just know it. It's the exact same crap-eating smile he gives us in Death Stranding 1 every time. There's not a lot to say here other than the fact that he's got some really interesting hair colors in this game. Like, he's blonde, he's ginger, he's brown haired, but I think we know he just got out of the coffin. We could see the coffin behind him when he was standing there. I am definitely thinking that's the issue with a lot of the hair color stuff that we're seeing, and so I'm thinking that most this does not matter to anyone but me, but I think that he is still a brunette. He's just kind of a light brunette. I do not think he's blonde, even though I think he would look really sick as a blonde. And I also don't think he has like darker hair now. I think it's literally just he's a messy boy and he's been in tar. But anywho, I like the looking at the photo that you can see the barcodes. Can't see them very well, and I wasn't really able to like make out anything particular on them. It's more of that weird code. But we do get to see that he is changing his expression. He is smiling, and over on the left side we see a large black insignia of the ghost merge, Amelie, whatever you want to call it. And then at the very bottom, we see a very tiny white version of it. I thought that was kind of interesting because I've been working off the assumption that the ghost symbol is more specific to like him, kind of like how like maybe the homo demons were. But now I'm wondering maybe Ghost Mech isn't just cargo. But I don't know. It could just be kind of how the homo demons have void out on all their stuff. Who knows? There's nothing really different about Sam. His outfit looks mostly the same. There's no new like writing or anything on it. And I'm still unclear where this is at. It almost looks like he has like maybe this could be in the area where like the big hand monsters are, just because it kind of looks like he has a rock behind him, but I think it fits okay in this part of the trailer, having it near this boss fight. He still has, it says timefall proof technology on his jacket. I think this boss battle is really cool to look at. I think also that this is definitely Higgs piloting this. I showed some footage in an old video, but basically when you fight Higgs the first time in Death Stranding 1, he also sends almost the exact same creature at you. He puts his hands down in the tar, he pulls up a big squid, and that's the first real boss battle that you have. Now, instead of it wearing a mask or the gold skull like what the little squid had in Death Stranding 1, I noticed that there's a coffin on this, and at first I just assumed that the mask was piloting it, but I actually think Higgs is inside this robot. Let's zoom in and I'll show you where the coffin is. Hopefully that's close enough for you, but that appears to be Higgs on this thing's back, piloting it just like he did with the other robot earlier in the game. So maybe this is after he's met Higgs, because this would be a step up from the like mini gun shooting arm robot that Higgs was on the first time. I thought it was kind of funny. This thing walks with 3 legs at a time. So the way those 3 legs are on the bottom, it actually rotates on them, and it's kind of just funny to watch. But every single one of the like Oja deck like pieces, I realized really resembles Higgs's new Ojudeck, and I wonder if this will kind of be his personal weapon of choice or if we will see lots of different, machines. Here's a little close up of his backpack in case you were curious. He's got about 4 patches. He has the Why Me patch, Koji Pro, and a couple others, so not a lot has changed. I also thought he had a lot of similarities to Red Samurai when I was looking at those weird kneecaps. That same symbol looks so familiar because it looks a lot like Red Samurai's like S-shaped symbol slash design elements of its katana. I also think the biggest argument for this being Higgs's boss battle creature thing is the fact that the legs have design motifs that we've seen on the coffin. It looks really similar, same coloring, things like that. And then down at the bottom I noticed there's either a school bus or like a military caravan type thing. I didn't notice that before, so that's interesting. I don't know that I've seen any of those vehicles in Death Stranding 1. And coming out of the tar, we get a better look at kind of the bottom of one of the legs, and we can actually see it has sort of the same font that Higgs's stuff does. So um, I don't know if that makes Red Samurai more likely to be part of Higgs's crew or them knowing each other, or if it's just another building block that there's one person supplying everything. So we talk a lot about Higgs and Sam and Lou and maybe if Lou is split and all this stuff. But the thing that's weird about Red Samurai and this robot is that they share a lot of similarities. Red Samurai is interesting because it has the same eye as this tentacled monster, but it has Sam's Ojudeck for a face. And then we have the tentacle monster that has, all of the ghost mech all over it. And Red Samurai has a lot of similar coloring, like the same sort of outfit and look as a lot of the robots that we're seeing. But he, instead of being just parts, he's like covered in leather, which, as I kind of been thinking, like, does he have a body under there? I'm just not sure about Red Samurai's body. But we know that he's got, aspects of both the good side with what I would consider the Ojudeck. That star Ojudeck just seems to be very much like the good people use that one. It's Sam's special one. But then noticing that the sword and the eye both look a little bit similar to this tentacle creature, it's possible that this is something that was created by Higgs, or maybe he like co-opted it, or maybe he inspired someone to create this and like riffed off of what he had already created. Or I started thinking some of the things about like Moby Dick and evolution, like basically the concept that the things that you obsess over can kind of consume you eventually. Is this like a Frankenstein sort of situation? Is this something that Higgs has created and now it is trying to kill its creator? I'm just wondering, could Red Samurai be some sort of creation that is out for revenge against its creator? And with that, we have another Death Stranding video finished. We will be moving on to Tomorrow, Fragile, and the exploding hand that we see in the trailer, and just discussing what we think could be going on. If you leave a comment or you want to talk about a certain part of the video, if you leave a timestamp, it makes it way easier for me to find where you're talking about and talk back and forth with you. Feel free to leave comments down below. People have been really, really good about commenting back and forth, and I feel like we are figuring things out. I think there won't be so many surprises for those of us who have been discussing in these videos, so hopefully we'll get some more information. I know that the May 8th video is probably already posted by the time that this video posts, but I'm excited and we are getting so close. I think this video goes up at the end of May. So we are so close. We're like less than a month away from the game. So woohoo! Hopefully we are going to have such a great time. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Mhm.